You want to go all the way back. I mean, there's been, there was the yellow pages and the white pages, when we were growing up, and we were using those, and those were the first data vendors ever, right? And you could say, Equifax and those other company list building companies, Dun and Bradstreet, certainly some of those older companies, but they sort of come in waves. There's the Dun and Bradstreets, the Equifaxes, and then in the 2000s, there's, some other companies started to come around, like the Discover Orgs and the Zoom Infos of the world. And then you sort of saw the Wrap Leafs and the Clearbits and Full Contact and all these other API services start to come around. What would the barcode on your back lead me to? What would I be buying if I scanned the barcode on your back? So I'm basically just a data nerd. I've been in the data space now for 6 years, and specifically when I say data, I mean in terms of B2B contacts and company information. So I got a job at Discover Org, which is now Zoom Info. And I was one of the first data engineers there, sort of shaped both of those teams. I went to Gorgeous after that, Charm.io, and now started Exact Buyer. That's the thing that I kind of focus on. How specific can you get about your ideal buyer? Oftentimes you're going to get from different vendors like probable email addresses, which means that data vendor guessed at an email and just said like, yeah, we think this is it. Go for it. You try and let us know. And they sell data for super cheap. But then you're going to see, 15 to 20% bounce rates or higher, and then very quickly your campaign's going to fizzle out. Especially in a B2B context, when you don't have millions of buyers. You might have like 50 to 60,000 true buyers of your forever. That's your entire market. As unsexy as it is the highest leverage activity is just making sure that you get accurate data that's actually classified correctly. And I think most people sort of skip over that step because either people tell them just trust us, this data's right. And they're like, okay. And then they sort of move on and they focus on everything else, especially if you're thinking about building it in the context of digital advertising. You really don't want to fuck it up, because every time you mess up one field, you choose the wrong industries, you multiply those effects together, and you very quickly end up with an audience that maybe 20 to 30% as effective as it could be, just because it's inaccurate. So there's a lot of different teams that rely on that CRM data, right? It's sales team, marketing team, customer success teams, support teams. That's the place where founders make the biggest mistake, because what they'll do is they'll end up throwing it into these email sending platforms, put in 5,000 contacts into this campaign, and they just let it ride, right? Just within the next 2 months, we're totally gonna get 700 demos. It's gonna be great. And then they realize halfway in, that's well, now our mailboxes don't work anymore because none of those people work at those companies. We got a ton of bounce backs, everyone's mad at us. Focusing on the accuracy part, I think, really makes everything down funnel from that way more successful. The way to understand and classify companies and get data at scale has never been easier than it has today. It's pretty awesome.